My mom attended Mac. I believe it was in, I think, 72 and 73. Both my older sisters have graduated with their bachelor's degree. My dad did not attend college, but he was also in the mindset he thought education was very important. My mom did as well. There was never any pressure from either of my parents, like you have to go to college. They would have been supportive either way if I decided to go to college or if I didn't. But I knew for myself personally, going to college was something that I always wanted to do. In my mind, whether that be from TV and movies or things you hear from other people, I immediately thought college was going to be like leagues more difficult than what the workload in high school. But I always heard good things about, being able to choose your own schedule when you took your classes. So that was something that I was excited for, being able to, pick when I wanted to take my classes, and they wouldn't have to be, the normal 8 to 3 like you are normally when you go through K through 12. There was that, just the general, I don't know if you want to say fear, but that feeling of, okay, am I going to be able to get to this class in time? What if I have to go to this class? Or, kind of that general thought process, and then also just thinking that trying to figure out how are my professors going to be, and just assuming they're going to be different from every teacher I had in high school, so kind of trying to anticipate what their expectations of me were as a student and things like that. When I was in high school at the time, you didn't take online classes. You were there in class all throughout the day. And that was something that was very different when I first took my first online course. Just that whole, I guess if you want to say freedom of I don't have to be at class anytime during the week. And that was something that thankfully, just naturally, I'm a person I don't like to procrastinate. Because that's something I never like to have work hanging over my head. But it was something, even being that type of person with the first online class I took, that was a big change, knowing that, I don't have to be in class, but I had to stay on top of, I'm logging in, checking discussion board posts, I've got to make sure I do these readings on time and stuff, and it was very different not having that face-to-face interaction with a teacher in the classroom. Overall, my college experience, going through working on my bachelor's and my master's, was a really good experience. I mean, granted, you're always going to have those instructors that, some were better than others, but the vast majority of instructors I had were excellent. The projects and things that I worked on, I really enjoyed. I got involved in college, especially when I actually attended Mac, I was involved in PTK and doing different events that we helped out with that. It's just overall, it was a very good experience, and I think a lot of it was the freedom in the sense of, if you took all your classes in the morning, you had the afternoon if you wanted to, study for a test or work on assignments. And of course, I was working part-time in college when I was working on my bachelor's. So there was always that juggle of, I got to go to class in the morning, but then I've got to work in the afternoon. And so there definitely, overall it was a great experience, but there was definitely, times where it was hectic and kind of stressful too. I think especially with first-generation students, and it's depending, the circumstances are different from person to person. I think it's a situation where a first-generation student is coming from, a background where no one went to college, but they didn't value it. I know there could be that, added pressure of not having that support, but I think the biggest thing I can say is, when you decide that you want to go to college, instead to, definitely be self-disciplined with the coursework load, and having to put the time and effort into studying, getting the assignments done. But I really think, as simple as this sounds, but to be proud of that, the fact that, you are in college, you're doing the college work. And I think just having that internal pride that, you are doing this is something that really, I think, can carry you through it. And then it's one of those things, I know it's easier said than done, but if you have questions about something, you don't understand an assignment in a class, you don't understand where you're supposed to turn in this form on campus, just find someone, reach out to someone to get help. And I know that can be a very difficult thing, especially for first generation students who maybe don't have, older siblings or a parent who attended college, and they don't know, what are the rules and regulations of college, and just that fear of, I'm afraid to say something because I don't understand. Like I said, even though it's easier said than done, like to ask for help if you need it.